Well, under orders from the Supreme Court, the demolition drive that was started in Jahangirpuri in northwest Delhi yesterday has been put on hold at least for the next 2 weeks. The court says that the status quo has to be maintained as it will continue hearing the matter after that, also giving a very strong warning to the authorities there who did not listen to the court's orders and went on with the demolition for 2 hours. Until it was finally stopped. Well, leading the charge in the court was senior advocate Dushyant Dave, who joins us on NDTV this evening. Mr. Dave, thanks very much for joining us. Some reprieve, at least for the moment, Mr. Dave. But just to clarify once again, and I know you said this in court as well, the law and the rules do clearly state that for any anti-encroachment drives, those who are at the receiving end of it must get a notice, mustn't they?
Absolutely. In fact, this is very interesting because this is the worst form of violence that state can, inflict upon its own citizens. I mean, there can't be anything worse than this. It's like those fake encounters that state, carries on from time to time. Now, here there is a parliamentary injunction by the Act of 2011, which has protected all illegal encroachments in Delhi till 2023 December, because Parliament feels that a solution must be found as to how they could be regularized, how they could be rehabilitated, etc. So there is an injunction from Parliament that nobody will be removed. Then you have the law, the fundamental rights, and right to life, right to live with dignity, and right to life, livelihood. Now the law clearly therefore commands that before anybody is, any action is taken against anyone, including a drastic action like demolition of his home or his shop, he has to be heard. I mean, it's a very, very natural, basic, human right of everybody to be heard. And principles of natural justice must be complied with. But also the Municipal Corporation of Delhi Act has expressed provisions in this regard in section 343, which says that even if you have passed an order of demolition, you must give notice of 5 to 15 days so that people can cure, the illegalities. And in any case, it says that you can't pass any demolition order without hearing anybody. Now, these are the provisions under the law. Therefore, the action which was, I think, initiated and, unleashed on citizens was completely unconstitutional, illegal, and against very basic human values that our society stands for.
Mr. Dave, the other important thing was, of course, the court's warning today to the authorities who went on with the demolition despite their orders yesterday morning. Now, what are the larger implications of something like this when the Supreme Court of India passes orders for demolitions to stop and local authorities just don't heed them? What does that tell you?
Well, it's an extraordinarily sad commentary on us as a nation, because, the Supreme Court is ultimately the Supreme Court of India. It's the ultimate custodian of fundamental rights and basic human values. It's the ultimate protector of rule of law in this country. And when Supreme Court speaks, everybody must listen. And in fact, by virtue of Article 144 of the Constitution of India, there is a clear mandate on all authorities, civil and judicial, that you must act in aid of the Supreme Court of India. Now, once the Supreme Court's order was in public domain, because the media instantly relayed, news about the Supreme Court order, within minutes of order having been passed around 10:45 yesterday, I think that everybody should have stayed their hands off. And it's really unfortunate that they continued to, act in gross violations of laws, despite Supreme Court having expressly prohibited them from doing so. What? So I think it's the worst form of, disobedience of the court's order.
Well, one of the things you did point out, very rightly so, is the fact that you have illegal encroachments everywhere pretty much in Delhi. These are, especially in the posher parts of Delhi, which no one would dare touch. And yet you go after the poor with such impunity.
Well, Parliament has recognized this act, which is called the National Capital Territory of Delhi Laws Special Provisions Act of 2011. That act has been passed by Parliament and it has been now extended by amendments till December of 2023, which clearly recognizes large-scale problem in Delhi, National Capital Territory. And according to government's own sources on the floor of the parliament, there are as many as 1,731 illegal colonies which are encroaching on public land or are unauthorized in one form or the other. Now, if you therefore have to take action, you just can't touch it because parliament says we are trying to find a solution. Therefore, please do not, remove these encroachments. Now, if you don't respect your own parliament, and the amendment has been brought by the Bharatiya Janata Party government, and it's in larger public interest, it is to have, because the whole purpose of parliamentary legislation is to help poor people and also people who have been caught into this, difficult situation where they have had to, make illegal encroachments or unauthorized constructions. Once that happens, then I think every authority should have been aware. The police should not have acted in assisting the municipal authorities. The municipal authorities could never have started the demolition drive. And nobody, including the distinguished president of the Bharatiya Janata Party Delhi wing, should have given such direction to the authorities. Everybody must respect parliament. So I don't know. I mean, it's really extraordinary what has happened.
Well, Mr. Dave, what is important about this hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that would the Supreme Court, be really setting the tone for what is happening in other states also? Because we're seeing this demolition drive happening now in Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh. You have some other state governments talking about doing this, replicating this model. So therefore, how important does this case become as a test case as a template for the rest of the country?
Well, it's definitely a path-breaking, case. And there is no doubt about the fact that this case reflects, the action of the government reflects complete negation of rule of law. This is not what our constitution provides. This is not what, rule of law commands. This is not what, a civilized society can afford to have in its country. See, ultimately you may allege that they are rioters, but till the court proves that they are rioters, they are not rioters. Every man is presumed to be innocent till he is found guilty. Now, the authorities can't find people guilty. So that's the first aspect. The second is that even if they are ultimately found guilty, the Indian Penal Code or any other law for that matter does not provide the kind of punishment that if you are found guilty as a rioter, your home and shops will be demolished. It's unthinkable. We are not in stone ages. We are a beautiful democracy, a plural democracy, a secular democracy, a fantastic, I personally feel this is a case where Prime Minister should step in and really, I think, chide these people who have acted, with over-enthusiasm, because we are sending terrible signals to the international community. We are not, India is not this kind of nonsense. India is a beautiful country. India has a very strong foundation of democracy, a strong, foundations of rule of law. And therefore, by these kind of, actions, we are sending really wrong message that, we condemn law of Sharia, for example. Do we want that eye for eye? Certainly not. And nobody forget, this is not about religion. This is about citizens. The citizens must be, cared for by the state. The citizen must be loved by the state. The state cannot behave the way it did yesterday, unleashing the most brutal violence on citizens and destroy their homes and shops.
Right. Well, Mr. Dave, last question then. Is that why, lawyers like yourself are front and center of this fight? Clearly, this is not about one particular case. As you're saying, there's much more at stake, the Constitution itself.
Well, ultimately, who will defend the people who are defenseless? It's only the lawyers who will do that. And, I have always taken it as a mission. Whenever, people need help, in a year, I do almost 50 to 75 matters pro bono to help people from all kinds, including, people from the armed service forces, doctors, teachers, workers, etc. And in public life, I have always come forward. I have worked in every calamity from Kutch, earthquake to tsunami to, floods in Chennai or Uttarakhand or Assam, or even helping Prime Minister's Care Fund by a substantial, amount. So it's in us. We have duty as, these are our fundamental duties under Article 51A. And that's why, because I love this country so much, I love people. And I think that somebody must therefore take up these kind of causes to, ensure that these kind of things don't happen again.
All right, Mr. Dave, we wish you all the best in this case. As you said, it would be a landmark ruling, whichever way it goes. Thank you for joining us on NDTV.